Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, where today we'll be reliving one of the most dramatic standoffs in F1 history. When all the big teams threatened to break away and form their own championship, how did we get here? Let me explain. Okay, so imagine you're watching the 2009 Hungarian GP. The rain is coming down in torrents. Your hero makes a pit stop. They swerve past their rival. They take the lead, but then, wait, what's this? Another red flag. Surely not. Yes it is. You think to yourself, surely the race can't end like this. Surely they'll get some more racing in. No such luck. This time, though, it's not the weather to blame, but something much more sinister. It's the teams. For the first time in years, they've all signed a joint letter stating that they will only participate in today's race under protest and that they may boycott future races if their demands aren't met. What's this all about? Well, to understand this mini-player revolt, we need to rewind a few months to March 12, 2009. It's the first race of the year, and the Australian Grand Prix is about to start. On the grid, the cars of Ferrari, McLaren, BMW Sauber, Renault, Toyota, Red Bull, and others are all revved up and ready to go. At the front, however, is an official car of the race organizer, the FIA, the sport's governing body. Why? Because they're about to drive a wedge between the teams and the federation. With this car, specifically with the driver, who in a show of force will cross the line ahead of the field before the race is officially started. Why? Well, this is Charlie's car, and in 2009, the teams were at loggerheads with the FIA over a number of issues, namely cost control. Remember, this is a time when F1 was bleeding manufacturers like Toyota and Honda and BMW. The FIA thought the sport was heading towards ruin unless drastic action was taken. Specifically, they wanted to introduce a budget cap of £40 million, which sounds like a lot until you consider that Ferrari alone was spending more than triple that. Unsurprisingly, this proposal was met with absolute fury by the top teams. They considered it insulting and ridiculous and threatened to walk away. But the FIA stood firm, warning that F1 could survive without the manufacturers and that they should seriously reconsider their position. Surely they weren't serious, right? Well, as we now know, they were. And the ensuing standoff would result in one of the most dramatic moments in F1 history. The 8 leading teams banded together to form the Formula One Teams Association, or FOTA, and on June 2009, they issued an ultimatum. Scrap the budget cap or we're gone, and they really meant it. They had the backing of the majority of manufacturers and an army of lawyers ready to fight a lengthy court battle, plus, they had options. They had approached a number of circuits and secured provisional slots on their calendars. Not only that, but they had even sounded out broadcasters and secured provisional deals. If they left F1, they could simply set up their own series, sign new entrants, and carry on as normal. But this alternative championship would look very different. There would be fewer races, but they would be longer and feature more overtaking thanks to a change in regulations. Namely, refueling and tire changes would be banned, making pit stops a thing of the past and boosting overtaking. Additionally, points would be awarded to the fastest lap, and the move would open up the sport to new entrants. On paper, this all sounds great, but there was a problem. Without the current crop of teams and drivers, this series would have little appeal. So what was the solution? Simple: threaten to leave and then hope the FIA comes back to the negotiating table. Mission accomplished. The FIA took the threat seriously and agreed to reopen talks. But who holds the cards here? Well, the teams or the FIA? Well, in truth, both sides hold the cards. The teams knew that without their star drivers and big budgets, the series would implode faster than Bernie Ecclestone's ego. Meanwhile, the FIA knew that if the elite teams left, they could find themselves in a legal battle for the right to organize an F1 championship. But they also knew that the teams relied on F1's infrastructure, not least because the alternative series wouldn't be ready for a few years. So the stakes are raised as the teams refuse to start the Canadian GP. And in response, the FIA threatens to kick them out of the championship. As the days pass, things begin to unravel. First, Max Mosley attempts a solo flight to Canada to negotiate with the teams. Unsurprisingly, this fails, then he attempts to bring in new teams to replace the Rebels. But while there is interest, these new teams would still need time to prepare. So with time running out, Mosley pulls a swerve. He states that he will resign once a new Concord agreement is ratified, thus ending the standoff and paving the way for a compromise. A new Concord agreement would mean that the budget cap was off the table, but in return, the teams would agree to limit their spending and help F1 become more sustainable. Win-win. But one question remains: why do we remember this as the closest F1 has ever come to civil war? Well, because while the deal ended the immediate crisis, it failed to address the underlying issue: power. See, the FIA realized during this standoff that they didn't actually have the power to enforce any of these proposals. The reality is that in F1, power is a negotiation. And sometimes even the fastest teams have to hit the brakes.